Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined me today. Yes, we're getting ready for the coronation of King Charles III. We're outside. I apologize if there's noise, but it's so beautiful today. I had to come outside and have our pre-coronation tea party. Well, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause and get your tea, and I will be waiting here for you. I must tell you that I'm wearing a hat that I thought would be perfect for the coronation, and I kind of like it worn like this, but it doesn't seem to want to stay. And I thought, it's so large, for Westminster, I gotta peep down to fit in the camera here. To fit into Westminster Abbey, I might be blocking people. So I thought I'll let it flop, just kind of the natural way. I think it is a Audrey Hepburn hat for sure. So we think of her in Britain, and another wonderful person, that really a Dutch girl that went to England after the war and was trained in acting, dancing, and came to America. So she really had 3 countries. But I want to tell you, I'm playing for you the Handel music. George Friedrich Handel composed this in the 1700s for the coronation of the king. And it's called Zadok the Priest. Well, this coronation service we're going to be watching has evolved over centuries, but it has at its root and base the anointing of the king with holy oil from the service in Chronicles and the anointing of King Solomon. It's word for word. And that's where God Save the King comes from. The people call out as Solomon is anointed. And I think we talked last week, there's been special oil prepared in Jerusalem that they will anoint his hands and his forehead. And several kings back, they would wear gloves for 3 days and a hat to keep the holy ointment on their body. It's a sacred, holy service, and the whole world will get to go to church together. Isn't that beautiful? Westminster Abbey. And King Charles is the oldest king that has ever been crowned. He's waited a long time. And of course, there are opinions. He's maybe not having it as grand as it used to be. We'll wait and see and hope for the best. But I thought my black and white, kind of British dress with pearls and gloves, and these gloves are so fun. Often gloves are difficult getting on and off. These are the best invention. They're stretchy, and so they come off with great ease. Yes. Well, I'll tell you why I'm doing this a little early. Because next week I'm going to be away, and I cannot take all this royal china with me. I will be doing a tea talk on the road, and we will see what that is like. But for today, I thought, let's do a little royal talk and get ready, because it's a big, great, fabulous event. And no matter what you hear or what you think, I think everyone should watch it and partake of such a grand and marvelous Christian crowning of a king tradition. And a lot of you have been to Westminster Abbey. You know how beautiful it is and how royal it is. And there sits well, did sit it's sometimes called the Stone of Scone. It's the big rock that has a chair over it where the king is crowned. And the Scottish took it. In the last few years, it's been up in the Edinburgh Castle, but they brought it back. Now, when I lived in London in the 70s and 80s, it was always there, and I went to Westminster Abbey quite often. It wasn't the crowded situation now. Last time I was in London, my daughter and I were together, and the line went around the block. It was 90 degrees. We just couldn't go in. It was too much. But in the olden days, it was free, and you could go anytime, and I just went so often, and there's so much. Poets' Corner, the graves of David Livingstone and all the great men and women of the British Isles, and anyone that is considered that really affected their heritage is found there, either a memento to them or they are buried there. But that chair was always so special, and it sat and it's got quite a history because it's called Jacob's Pillow. And originally it was believed that that was the stone that Jacob, when he had his vision back in thousands of years ago in the book of Genesis, and he saw God gave him his calling and gave him the vision of the angels going up to heaven, and he's laid it on a rock. And then it is believed that that was Jacob's pillow that was then carried all through the wandering of the children of Israel and was always with them, and then somehow was taken and brought to Britain. So it's so ancient, no one knows for sure, but it's an interesting, fabulous thought, because it has marks on it that show that it's not just a stone, but it was actually carried by something along a way. So that's quite interesting. Well, I wanted to have this tea be so special. I don't have anything for King Charles' coronation. I haven't seen any tea tins so I brought this from last year, the Queen's Royal. It's a tea tin, Platinum Jubilee, and it's so beautiful. It has the coat of arms and the purple. So I brought that, and in it is tea. I still have some left. It seems that the tea keeps forever in these tins. And then, for fun, I brought what I would consider one of the most beautiful things for the tea table. It's a tea caddy. It's a silver tea caddy, and it has the lions on it. And in the olden days, when tea was first brought to England, they would have it in here. Now, I actually have some tea in a plastic that is bags, but loose leaf tea would be held here. The lady of the house, whoever she was, she would take this precious tea. Tea was so precious. Wow. The sun. I love you, sun. This is so nice. She would take this tea caddy, and they would make tea. And that was back originally in the 1600s, it's recorded. Maybe even a little earlier that tea came, but it was so expensive. They would throw away the tea leaves, and then the servants would have tea. And then the servants threw it away, and then the peasants had tea. The tea went round the block. I just have to breathe in that sun. It goes right into the system. The pituitary gland needs this sun, and it gives us something. Oh my. Well, so I thought I have to just go around and find the things that fit with royal. So this is a little dish that commemorates Queen Elizabeth June 2nd, 1953 coronation, and I put a sterling silver spoon and fork in them, this little dish, because I prepared a special dessert in a crown dish, and I know that King Charles likes healthy. This is very healthy. This is a yogurt sorbet berry dessert with coconut and nuts and oats on it. So isn't that beautiful? Isn't that perfect? I can't hold this dish quite up, but there's a crown right at the top, if you can see. Now, this was a dish I had in my cupboard from Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee, and it has all of the markings and the basically it's the crest of the royals. So Charles will have the same crest, so it works out quite nicely. And then I found, this is really old. This is a cup and saucer, and this is from Queen Elizabeth and King George that were crowned king and queen. This Queen Elizabeth's parent, or the Queen Elizabeth that just passed, her parents. And this was their jubilee. And it's so sweet because on the back here, and there's a little bit of lipstick because I have drank out of this cup. And look what's on the back. This is a little picture of Queen Elizabeth as a little girl, the last queen. So these are Charles' great-grandparents, and this says Coronation 1937, Elizabeth and George. 1937. So Queen Elizabeth is just a little girl. There she is. And so we have all of it together. Oh, and then on the plate. There, they are on the plate, and then they have the little Queen Elizabeth, who they know will be the one that would follow, because they didn't have a son, and she's the oldest daughter. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. I am going to, I kind of like this hat up. It feels like I can see everyone a little better. Let's see, does that work? I thought this is such a special pot. If you can see it, it's silver. And I put Jubilee tea in it. 2 different British teas are in this, a Jubilee and a Kenyan. And then this darling little creamer. I thought sterling silver for King Charles. And then I have here an extra little gold creamer and gold sugar. I just put them on because they picked up this gold and purple. You know, we can make our tea table a work of art. That's really what we're doing. We're making our tea table say something, and we are trying to give it, oh my, oh, that's delicious. Well, let's see how the hat goes now. I don't really know how I'm supposed to wear this hat. It's very floppy, and I guess that's it. I just want to be able to see you. I'm a little dark in there. Let's try that again. Okay. Now, I'm going to just play this. I'm going to play it again because I think it's so beautiful. I tried to find the other coronation music and they weren't listing it. They only had this in my collection here. But pearls are always worn by the royals. I know Queen Elizabeth, she wore pearls a lot. So I thought this fits her, and she was such a beautiful queen. We all miss her so much. But we do pray for Charles that he will do a good job. I know he's trying. And, you know, a lot is dependent upon his advisors. These royals depend on people to assist them. It's always been said the more powerful person is the influencer of the leader. So I pray that he will have good people around him, surrounding him, guiding him. And I know he plays the cello as a young man, I remember. My husband and I actually saw him. We were on our honeymoon in Victoria, BC, and we saw Charles. And he waved from his car, and his very rosy cheeks and very thick, dark, reddish hair. Very nice. He was very nice. And of course, we all loved Princess Diana. And their story is complicated, but we have to take the good from all of it and pray for God's blessing and mercy. I have been thinking about all of you so much, and I found this darling little book that was a gift to me from dear friend, the Corn Nuts, and it's the prayers of Jane Austen. And I thought, I am going to read a prayer to my tea people for today. There are 3 prayers that she prayed. And I'm going to pray one that I thought, well, they're all beautiful. And here's, I'll read this one. I'll read part of it. And I think it's so beautiful, the illustrations. You know, people don't realize Jane Austen was the daughter of a clergyman, very much living in the period of Pride and Prejudice. We know what her house was like because we've all seen Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, and we know basically what her house was like. Well, she was a quiet girl, but she sat at a little desk. She didn't have a broad social life. Her social life was the parish, which was basically everyone coming and going from the parsonage. And she was like Charles Dickens. She had keen observation. And so she was sitting there writing, putting all these people in her book. Books, plural. But she was a real Christian, and I thought this would be really sweet to read. And she writes, oh my goodness, she writes so sweetly. Here's a picture that's illustrated very nicely. May the comforts of every day be thankfully felt by us. May they prompt a willing obedience of thy commandments and a benevolent spirit toward every fellow creature. Have mercy, O gracious Father, upon all that are now suffering from whatever cause, that are in circumstance of danger or distress. Give them patience under every affliction, strengthen, comfort, and relieve them. To thy goodness, and here's another beautiful art illustration. To thy goodness we commend ourselves this night, beseeching thy protection of us. Through its darkness and dangers, we are helpless and dependent. Graciously preserve us. She writes with such eloquence, doesn't she? She writes with such beauty and grace. And this little book is so sweet. It's blue embossed in gold. It's published by Harvest House Publishers. And I think if you like it, you can get it online. So I just brought that to the tea table because I think the tea table needs to be the most creative place. We bring a poem, we bring a prayer, and if we wanted to have a very special tea, we could have musicians come and play, or play background music, or have someone give a talk. In France, it was called having a salon, and this is how people communicated. And up until all of this media and TV and radio, everything was done within the frame of the home. You know, even 100 years ago, people played string quartet in their home. They played piano and sang around the piano. And in the music store, they would have a piano in the middle of the store, and they would have someone that could play and a good sight reader and would bring the sheet music down and play for the people so they would know what they wanted to buy. Isn't that interesting? And now suddenly they had then recordings and radio and CDs, VHS, now iPhone, Blu-ray. I mean, it goes on and on. But this is only in the last 50 years we've had these options like this. 50 years ago, we had the cassette tape. Before that, we strictly had radio or record. The first recording I did was on a little 76 LP because I was told in order to get radio play, you needed to have it on an LP, a little a flat record. That suddenly changed. Wow, that changed. And then with the digitalization of the music, it all changed. Now, my car that my husband and I recently got doesn't have a CD player. They expect me to have my phone plugged in if I want music or there is radio. So thank God I still have a radio and I play my classical king, but there were CDs I used to like to play in my car. And now suddenly, and then the little place that holds the sunglasses, they took that out and put a camera in. And change. Now the sun is peeping. It's going to only be here for a little longer. Talk about change. The sun comes and goes too. Yes, it does. Well, I hope you will all tune in to the coronation. It's 8 hours ahead of us on the West Coast. For those who live on the East Coast, it would be 5 hours ahead. But, so you have to get up, if you're on the West Coast, you have to get up at really early, like 4 in the morning. Whenever I watch the royal weddings or the Queen's events, I had to get up at 4 a.m. to see it. Or even 3 sometimes, it seemed, if you wanted to see what was going on before. But it was always fun and worth it. But I know they will replay this later. But it's always fun to watch it as it happens, because then we have, you get comment and perspective from the British commentators. That is so educational. Yes. Well, I'm going to just pour a little more tea if it's all right. This pot is so sweet. Isn't it little and sweet? It's just right for one person or two. If you have quite strong tea, you only need a cup or two. Do you hear the birds? I can hear some of the birds and the wind. Well, I hope you have a wonderful week. And we're going to get into May next week, which is May Day. Oh my, that May Day is Monday. So don't forget to make a little posy. Here's a little posy. And you can just take it like this in your hand and wrap it in a ribbon and go put it on someone's door. That's what May Day is, remember? When we were children, we used to do that. And in those days, I remember going and picking wildflowers and taking them to we had elderly neighbors, and we would wrap it up in a cone and put it on the door, knock on the door, and then run away. And it was kind of like a little surprise. Yes. Well, spring is here. Enjoy your tea. And it might be nice to study some of the history of the coronation before you watch it, because there's so much to know. And it is not just King Charles. He represents so much, but it's all of us. We all have roots in the British way, and this he has to be the king for all of us. We don't have a king here. So we enjoy that wonderful monarchy in Britain, don't we? We all do. It probably pulls in more tourism than anything else. And the same in Austria. Sissi, the last Austrian princess, beautiful Sissi. There's a Sissi museum. There's streets named after her. There's just so much. And I think she brings more in for the country of Austria, she and Mozart probably, than, and that wonderful Kunz painting, The Kiss. It's interesting. People flock from all over and buy, and it helps the country and it inspires others. And that's what the British royalty does. They are inspiring to us. They're carrying on the traditions. And so we pray that it all goes well. And we will hope for the very best for all of the royal family. And in the Queen's memory, the tray I am using today is the tray that commemorated her 25th anniversary. I can't really turn it. It's all purple. But I'll bring it to another tea talk and show you. It has all of, I think I've used it in the past. It has all of her wonderful words, her years. Let me see if I can show you. I think it's so special. It's worth taking. A few little crumbs here. This is it. Isn't that beautiful? That's Queen Elizabeth's tray. So hopefully I'll get to have something of Charles for my little royal collection after. I just haven't seen anything around, I guess, online, but for now I'm just going to enjoy the, there it says Zadok the priest. Let's see, like this. And then this lovely little kind of purple, gold, and silver. That's what the tea tray is today. Oh, and the little dessert. Going organic, kind of organic, sweet, but a lot of organic fruit. People like. It's very tasty to have fresh fruit. Very nice indeed. There we go. Okay. Well, God save the king. God bless the king. God help the king do what is right for his people, for God, and for the royal family.